Okay, so the first lead gen funnel we're going to break down is a very simple one. This is simply a lead form funnel. Now, the application and strategy behind this is you are sending your traffic, whether it's paid or organic, to a sales page or a landing page, and the goal here is for someone to fill out a lead form, giving you or the client the necessary contact information or job information or quote information that you need to move them to the next step in your sales pipeline and sales funnel. Now, there's a real key here when it comes to creating lead forms, and that is finding the sweet spot between what information you actually need to progress them to the next step and what information you can possibly omit that you might need later. A good example of this is I was working with a client and we had a really high converting funnel. He was killing it and he said, well, I'd like to get some more information on our lead form, and he wanted to add 5 additional questions, and I told him that it would 100% lower his conversion rate and increase his cost per lead. He didn't want to believe me, and he went and did that, and his average cost per lead went from $13 to $93 just as a result of adding 5 additional questions. So you really want to make sure that you find the sweet spot in what information do we absolutely need and nothing else to move someone to the next step. Is that just name and email? Is it name, email, and phone number? Is it name, email, phone number, and address, etc.? So now that we've got that housekeeping out of the way, we're just going to dive into the iPad and break down this very, very simple funnel. So it's going to, of course, start with traffic. We need traffic to go to our funnel in order for it to do anything. So you will have your traffic sources. Say you have, paid ads. You might have organic and maybe some miscellaneous traffic sources. Like let's say this is a home service provider and they're using things like Angie's List or other directories where people might find them, etc. But either way, your traffic will be going to this funnel. Now, the ideal application here is probably for paid ads and for specific organic content that has a specific call to action, because as we discussed in the intro, our funnels are typically designed around a certain service, a certain product, and really refined based on the customer's exact needs, so we can have a very particular customer journey. So either way, they will be going to our sales page, or our opt-in page rather, in this case for our funnel. And we have that page, and our whole purpose here, again, is just to get someone to fill out a lead form. So some of the things you might typically want on here are going to be a really strong headline, and you can reference the lesson here in the program about my 3 keys to a strong headline. A video is always a good thing to have here. Customer testimonials are always great, right? But the main thing that we are focused on is our lead form. Now, one thing I want to really emphasize here is the importance of the placement in your lead form. So how I've actually written it out here, and that's just because I didn't really have space, is not how I would typically recommend doing it. Typically, I would suggest putting your lead form in your first fold of your funnel. That first fold is simply the things that someone sees without having to scroll on your site. This is where you have the opportunity to capture attention, to gain interest, and ideally get someone to submit that lead form. Now, this is ideal for paid ads, because if you are running paid ads for a particular service, say we have our lead form here, let's say it is concrete repair, and someone clicks on that, they presumably have clicked on that because they are interested in the service. So we want the first thing that pops up to be information about the service, right? So our video here, our headline here, some social proof, but importantly, we want our lead form very accessible, very out in front, and remember, we want to find that sweet spot. So that is how a very simple lead form opt-in funnel works. Now, of course, there are other aspects to this in the back end that come with the follow-up. So let's say someone submits our lead form. Well, then we need to move them along. We need the client or us as the business owner to contact them, move them along the stages of our pipeline. This will greatly vary depending on the type of business, depending on the product, depending on the sales process, but some general applications that I personally typically use in this case are for a lot of home service provider clients. So they'll run ads for their concrete repair business, someone fills out their lead form, then what happens next is they will go to a scheduling page. Now that we have their lead contact information, they'll go to a scheduling page where they can actually schedule a free estimate, right, on the client's calendar, right, or on the client's calendar right here. And once that happens, they then are put into an automation where they will receive automated SMS and automated email all the way up until my client shows up at their home to quote the job. Now, these automations are things like appointment confirmation, appointment reminders. You can set up different intervals, so you can remind every day, you can remind once a week, you can remind 2 days before, then the day before, then 24 hours before. Now, in this case, I always send reminders both to my client and the prospect who filled this out. So all that my client really has to do is show up at the job site or the estimate site, and all the prospect has to do is fill out that lead form, schedule their estimate, get reminded of when that estimate is, get notified when the client is on the way, meet the client right here for the estimate, and from there the client can go ahead and close the deal. Very simply, that is a lead generation lead form funnel. You are sending traffic for a specific offer to a specific landing page, and your sole focus is to provide the info and only the info that is absolutely necessary for someone to be convinced to move to the next step by filling out a lead form. Now you may be wondering, okay, cool, well what if they fill out the lead form but they don't schedule? Well, we will actually set up a whole separate automation for that. So if they did not schedule, they will again get SMS and email reminders that are trying to point them back here to schedule. And after a certain time, if they have not scheduled, we will actually send an automation to the client, typically via SMS, because that's easiest, to go ahead and manually call or follow up with that lead so it is not lost. So that is a very simple lead form funnel. I know this drawing may be a bit confusing, but hopefully if you followed along, it all makes sense. As always, if you have questions, feel free to let me know, and I will see you in the next lesson. Peace.